It's great to see everyone. Welcome to our March 30th workshop meeting of Verona Borough. I would ask that unless you are speaking, if you would please turn your video off. It's just easier for us in the recording to just have council members showing up unless they're talking. Unless someone's talking, then we'd love to have your video on. Okay, so that's my call to order. I guess we'll go with the Pledge of Allegiance. You can unmute for this, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which is stand one nation, under God,
justice for all.
liberty, justice for all.
It's really good, Rachel.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Roll call, Mr. Mayor, please.
Dr. Carpenter,
Present.
Mr. Matlin,
Present.
Mrs. Loelbo,
Present.
Mrs. Provenza,
Present.
Mr. Suchovich,
I'm here.
Mr. Forbeck,
Here.
Mrs. Redzek Showalter,
Present.
and Mayor Recupero is present.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're going to start with registered comments from the public. I would ask everyone who's commenting tonight to do your very best, if at all possible, to be succinct with what you're presenting, only because we have a very packed meeting and we'd like to get out of here before midnight. So appreciate that. That was just a joke, but you know what I'm saying. So I think what we have first on the agenda is Dr. Donald Stoner of Oakmont and Verona Rotary Club.
Yep.
So turn your audio and video. There you are. Great. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. My presentation is very, very brief. The Parks and Recreation Committee located where they would prefer to have the flags on the holidays. The locations they had picked were around the train station. We could put up to 100 sleeves in the ground in that area, pending your approval.
Can we see any kind of map or, you know, an idea of where precisely all these flags are going to go?
Vince, do you have that? Vince did a map. And he
Yes,
set it out.
I emailed everyone on council the map of the locations.
Yeah,
We don't have, okay.
I have
we
it
don't-
here. Give me to
Oh,
share.
all right. Maybe share the
Yeah, I
screen
saw
with us.
it
That'd
too.
be good. Yeah,
I got it from Vince.
just for a second so we could take a look.
Yeah, hang on a second while I pull it up.
All right, thank you. And while you're doing that, I just want to let people know I have a very sick dog here behind me. So if I disappear all of a sudden, or you hear coughing in the background, that's from my little dog. I
Yeah.
just gave him some medicine, so hopefully that kicks in.
The only other comment I have is that I had told everybody that we had an insert in the newsletter that was going out to Verona this quarter. And I talked to Ray Rogers today, and he said that due to a mix-up, it may not have been in the newsletter. So we're looking for other ways to publicize this to the residents of Verona.
Well, we certainly have a very good social media presence. And when are these flags going to go up?
They'll be put up for Memorial Day, Flag Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, and Veterans Day.
Okay, so the basic holidays then,
Yes.
and will they be the same flags?
Yeah, there are American flags, a 3x5 American flag on a 10-foot steel pole. And basically, the sleeve is a PVC sleeve that's 15 inches long that will be permanently inserted into the ground. And it'll have a cap over it so that it'll keep anything from going into the pipes, and it'll be at ground level, so it will not interfere with the mowers.
Oh, so these aren't flags that have pictures on them of veterans?
No, these are American flags.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and then there will be a vinyl sign on the train station. I'm working with Tom Dapper of Precision Grit and Engraving there at Oakmont to make the vinyl sign that will list all the donors and the honorees and the sponsors.
I see.
So, and you guys are going to be the ones responsible for storing these and taking charge of these, or would we be storing them?
No, we would put them in, would take them out with volunteer groups. The Key Club has agreed. We're going to approach the Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, any other organization that would like to help putting them in and taking them out. But they'll be stored over at Pittsburgh Indoor Sports Arena, which is our club president, Karen Brooks. That's her business. And she's agreed to store them for us.
I
So,
think it's a really great idea.
And then the sleeves, Vince had asked if the sleeves could be used for other flags on the holidays that the borough may want, and we have no objection to that. You're welcome to use the sleeves for Christmas flags or Easter flags or whatever else you may want to do.
so why do I have the idea that each flag was being sponsored by somebody?
It is. Basically, we had asked for a $50 donation per flag to honor and remember somebody. The names of the people being honored and remembered would be put on the vinyl sign that will be on the building, and they will also be recognized in the advanced leader at the end of the year. But in order to be inclusive of everyone, we realize that $50 is a lot of money to many families, and we got sponsors from the business community and other individuals so that with any donation, no matter how small the donation, we will provide a flag with a listing of a person being honored or remembered with a limit of one per family, as long as we have the flags available.
And
And at
so
this,
when you,
and at this point, it looks like we would be able to honor that for a good many people.
so when you say the names will be on the building, what building is that?
The railroad station, we're going to have a vinyl sign made to put on the railroad station while the flags are up. So the sign will go up and come down with the flags, and it will list all the sponsors and the donors and the honorees on the sign.
You
Rather
mean,
than having them on the individual flags where people have to go looking for a flag that matches their loved
Mhm.
one, they can see the names right on the sign.
and so when you mean at the pavilion, what we're looking at here is the pavilion. That's where you're saying the list will be?
Yes,
And the flags will just be in this area around the pavilion?
they'll be wherever your Parks and Recreation Committee wishes them to be, but this is where we had discussed when we met the other day.
Nancy, if I
Okay.
may, I think you're getting confused with the other flags that the chamber was talking about. With
No,
the,
I get it. I get it now. I get it. Mayor, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Stoner, you could jump in whenever, but I just want people to realize that there's two different programs going on. One from the Key Club and one sponsored by the Verona Chamber of Commerce. The one on the the flags with the pictures are on, they're a little more expensive. They're going on the poles throughout the community on the business district. And they'll have pictures of the servicemen from all wars. These are different. These are just American flags with the names on. Am I correct, Doctor?
Yes, and the names will not be on the individual flags, whereas the ones you're putting on the poles have the picture with the name for each individual. Here we
Exactly.
we'll have a list of the individuals who are being honored and remembered, but they will be all one sign, not on the individual flags.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Anything else from Parks and Rec, input from Parks and Rec about this? No?
This is Vince Flota.
Oh, hi Vince, go ahead.
I just think this is a great idea. And the ability to have the sleeves in the ground for use of future decorations or light up night or whatever. It just gives our park more versatility.
Is is the Rotary Club gonna put these sleeves in the ground initially?
Yes. We'll have Vince and the Parks and Recreation mark the spots where they would like them. Then we have to have one call come out to assure us that we're not going to hit a utility of any type. And then we will drill the holes and put the sleeves in.
Okay. So what do you need from us tonight?
Just approval of putting the flags there in the park.
Would someone like to make a motion to that effect?
I make a motion to allow these flags to be placed in the park in a manner is with the sleeves and with the American flags.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first by Mr. Forbeck, second by Mr. Suchovich. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, quick question. I don't know if Vince knows. Has anyone checked with AJ? No issues from AJ, the public works foreman.
I have not checked with him.
Yeah, I'll give AG a call and
Okay.
talk. I have a couple of other items I want to talk to him about.
Issues with, I figured if it was, when they were getting installed, we would make sure that they are low enough to be okay with the street crew and make sure it doesn't interfere with anything.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's always a good idea to give them a little warning.
yeah. At least give him a heads up that this is coming and make
Yeah.
sure he doesn't have any major concerns. But I don't see any issue.
Yeah, I
I
think it
figured
would be good
whenever if it got approved, I figured whenever they were doing the install, I would recommend that AJ was there so he could recommend the proper depth to put them in.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I think it would be good if we coordinate this with him, definitely.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to go ahead with this project, and I would just like to add with AJ's input.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Stoner.
Thank
You're-
you, Mr. Stoner.
You're quite
Thank you.
welcome. Have a good evening.
You're the same.
Okay.
Thank you. You also.
Thank you.
You're gonna stop sharing, Dave?
Yeah, I could probably do
That'd
that.
be great, thank you. Wonderful, thank you. Okay, next on the schedule is Mr. Pepper and Mrs. Brooks to speak about a welcome sign.
Thank you, Nancy. Could I share my screen? I have a very short presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Almost I'll keep it to 5 minutes.
Yep. Let me
I
enable
did
that.
it. It's done. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yep.
Okay. Is that working?
Yep.
All right, great. All right, well, thanks. Again, I know you have a lot to cover tonight, so I will keep this quite brief. Karen Brooks and I are both with the Rotary Club. We've been talking about this for several months. Recently, we started talking with Trish and several other people from council and from other places in Verona, and things are moving along pretty well. So I want to give you a quick update. Then at the end, just ask for your approval to move forward with the planning. So basically what we want to do is approve the entrances to Verona. Currently, as you know, there's 2 small signs. They've been there for a while. They're actually pretty nice signs, but they're old, they're faded. and they're green, which means they're kind of hard to see. So what we're hoping to do is to basically have more solid, more sort of eye-catching but attractive signs on all the major entrances to the town. We're looking at 3 different locations, which we do probably one at a time, just for funding purposes. The first one, and probably the most important, is the one coming in from Pittsburgh, actually from Penn Hills technically, on Allegheny River Boulevard. That's where you see the number 1 there. Then later on, we'd be looking at coming in from Oakmont, and then number 3 coming down Verona Road, Wildwood Road at some point. Each one would be landscaped and hopefully some subtle lighting using solar panels. So focusing on the entrance from Pittsburgh, you guys all know this. It's not a good look. You know, the first things you see are some old derelict signs that are on Penn Hills property, and then some businesses, some of which are shuttered. And so the idea is to improve that so that when people come into Verona, they see something much better than what's currently there. So the plan, if you see this yellow thing here, is to focus on this area here. And obviously we'd have to get the okay from Penn Hills, because I believe this is technically not in Verona. I think people perceive it as being Verona because it's right as you come into the business district, but I believe it's actually over the line in Penn Hills. So the idea is to landscape that using native plants, and there's a group called SEE or Sea Green. Rhea is in charge of that, and they'd be helping on the landscaping. We haven't by any means finalized a design yet. We want to be systematic about that, but obviously it'll have the name of the borough on it. We're thinking it probably will have the original artwork, you know, the oval train, but repainted so that it's new. And you know, as far as what the sign actually looks, there's a number of options. Some of them have a masonry base. Some of them go into the ground on posts. Lots of different options. And these are very preliminary, and we're certainly open to suggestions. So I want to talk about the process at this point, not the sign itself, if you don't mind. It looks like the project per sign will be under the $11,500 threshold that's required to get estimates and bids, that sort of thing. So we're looking, I don't know, between $5,000 and $8,000, it looks like, for the sign itself. And then there's landscaping and other things, but we believe we'll be under the $11,500. Oakmont Verona Rotary has agreed, in all likelihood, they'll be covering close to half of that. And we're looking to do a GoFundMe project to cover the rest. As you know, we did a GoFundMe project for the pickleball courts, and with the help of Rotary and some other organizations, we raised over $10,000 in about 2 months. So since this is of interest to everybody in town, we think we'll be able to cover the funding without too much difficulty. So that's about it. What we'd like to do on the process is I'd like to ask Verona Council tonight to approve a request for comments. And we do want to make sure that everybody who wants to have an input on the sign has a chance to do it. You know, we don't want anybody to look at that sign and say, you know, where did this thing come from? So our thought is to put something up on the borough's Facebook page, asking for comments, collect comments for a couple of weeks. And those of us that are working on the project would collect everything, come up with some revised designs, and then present 3 options to council. And we probably would rank them 1, 2, and 3, but obviously it's up to council what the final design will look like. And then once the council approves the design, we would contact some sign vendors. We've already spoken to 2 of them. We want to find people who are local. We might use local masonry people for the base if we can't find a local sign vendor. So that's all to be determined. And then we'll raise the money and hopefully get the thing installed this summer. At some point, either now or during Tricia's presentation, we would like council to approve moving forward on the request for proposal, or I'm sorry, request for comments. And then again, since some of this does involve Penn Hills, we would have to get their okay to use that property just over the line. And hopefully they'll also remove some of the old billboards that are just not being used for anything. Was that 5 minutes?
Okay, I have a couple of raised hands here. Thank you, Jeff, for that nice presentation. Mr. Suchovich, go ahead.
Jeff, thank you. That's wonderful. That's a wonderful idea and everything. The only comment or question I have is you answered one of them, was checking with Penn Hills. But being that that's a state road, a PennDOT road, would we have to check with PennDOT also to see if I know it's on property, but if we need to check with them, if you've looked into that at all?
I have not. I have to admit, I'm a newcomer when it comes to borough business. And as far as who to talk to about what, that's way outside my area of knowledge.
So
Okay,
just to let you know, I'm sorry. So I was in a meeting with Trish and the folks there. I did reach out to Penn Hills, and I was supposed to meet with their planning director last week, but as you know, I was ill, so I could not meet with them. But I am rescheduling that. We've been trading emails, and there's a good vibe that we'll be able to do this. And we did discuss also the state road right away as part of this. So yes, I'm going to help pursue that section.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Dr. or Mr. Pepper.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.
I think there might be more questions.
sorry.
Mayor has a question.
Yeah, real quickly. Yeah, PennDOT, I don't know if they're going to allow you to do that in Penn Hills on that property, because I did go to PennDOT for money when I did the two monuments, the lit monuments there, that you see, those stone monuments. The chamber actually paid for cleaning the stones and rebuilding them. And when PennDOT came out, because I tried to get see if there was any grants, they said that they were too close to the road. They shouldn't even be there. And when I told him that Christine Davis, she's a archaeologist here in Verona, very well known throughout the country, and she had put Allegheny River Boulevard on the historic landmark. So those pillars could not be touched, and that changed that tune because he said it was so close to the road. I think he told me, if I'm not mistaken, there was a 15-foot setback, from the curb line. And so that means you'd have to go into the hillside. And yes, we have a sign, and Jeff, you did put that up there. We actually just put that up hoping that PennDOT wouldn't say nothing, and knock on wood, they haven't. But I just wanted to throw that out. But I'm sure Penn Hills will tell you the same thing. You'll have to check with, PennDOT on that.
Thanks. Yes, so that is new information. The plan that we have tentatively is to set the sign back far enough that it will not get in the way of, cars, snow plows. At some point, if there's going to be a bike path, who knows? So our thought was to set it back about 4 feet so that we would cut into the hillside a little bit. But obviously 15 feet would be too far. I don't think it would make sense to have a 15-foot setback. So I guess we'd have to talk to PennDOT about getting a waiver on that.
Right. But it's a good idea. Thank you.
Is there any chance or discussion about putting it where the existing sign is, and the southern entrance to Verona? Or
you mean coming from Oakmont?
no, where the existing
This one here.
Jones Street and ARB. Yeah, the
This
lower right one.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly a possibility. I guess a couple things. First of all, by the time you get there, you're pretty much in Verona. You're already past a bunch of businesses. And secondly, it's the visibility is not quite as good. You know, it's a fairly narrow location. So, I mean, we can certainly do that as a fallback plan if the original location ends up being unworkable. But I'd certainly much prefer the first location.
Yeah, I was just thinking in case, if somehow PennDOT would allow this one, but not in the Penn Hills location, that just as a consideration. But I'm fine with it either way. I think it's a great idea. This one in particular, I've walked by many times and thought that it's in pretty rough shape, and we need to do something about it. So I'm glad that I'm really glad to see that the Rotary Club is taking charge to come up with this great project.
Okay, and Jeff, I have a couple questions as well. I just want to make sure that there wouldn't be any monetary expectations from the Borough of Verona for this project.
That's correct.
Okay, great. I was also thinking, just in your slide where you were saying the steps. So given the comments that have occurred just now, I'm thinking that maybe getting the permission from Penn Hills and PennDOT would be the first thing we would want to do before we did anything else.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's wonderful that you guys, came up with this idea. I guess I'm just a little curious, like, given that you're not a Verona resident, what spurred you on here to do this?
I really feel like I'm a Verona resident. For those of you that don't know, I live on 5th Street Extension in Verona Hilltop. I'm probably a 95% Verona resident and a 5% Penn Hills resident. I identify much more closely with Verona. And so as far as I'm concerned, this is my town.
Oh, well, welcome. We're glad to have you. When you're talking about requests for comments, I was unclear whether you are asking for general comments or just comments about the design whenever we do post the comment time.
Yeah, the thought was to basically announce that we're doing a sign. Here's where it's going. Here's roughly the size, and we'd like your suggestions about the design. So I guess I'd want to be a little cautious not to throw it open too broadly. We don't want people saying, well, the sign should go here instead of there, or the sign should light up. We don't want a digital sign. So I guess our thought was to simply ask for design suggestions. We might say, if you've seen a welcome sign that you like, send us the picture. And that way we can sort of prevent the process from getting out of hand.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know how long it's going to take to get the information from Penn Hills and PennDOT, but we may not be able to do this to be ready for the business meeting in April. So maybe we'll come back to this for the workshop for April, just to give ourselves time to get all our ducks in a row. Does that sound reasonable if we do it that way?
I think he wants an okay to move forward on this, though.
Well, I don't see how we can, well, I mean, we can say, we can make a motion to move forward pending Penn Hills and PennDOT's information.
We're not approving it.
But I wouldn't want to go and start getting comments and then having PennDOT saying there's no way you could do this, and then, have to come up with something else altogether.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think that we don't want to risk saying we're going to do something and discover that either we can't do it or we end up doing something very, very different. So yeah, I think I'm totally in favor of waiting until we get PennDOT and Verona and Penn Hills to agree to what we want to do.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to continue with the sign project pending PennDOT and Penn Hills. Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, first by Trish Redzak Showalter, second by Sylvia Provenza. Any other questions or concerns?
I had another quick question. Jeff, do you know, is the intent for the procurement process for the sign and the construction and install to go through the borough, or just be going through the Rotary Club?
We're open to either one. The funding would obviously come from, the funding would come from probably through Rotary.
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess, Dave, that's whichever you think would be better.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious if that had been discussed. I don't know offhand actually which, what our options there are, but yeah, that's something to keep in mind and look at. I know we probably have some time to figure that out, but yeah, that sounds good. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Keeping in mind for the public who's listening that during the two different types of comments that we have coming up, if you want to make a comment, you can do it at that time. But from council, any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.
Thank
everybody.
you, Jeff.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you, yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I think next we have Rhea Homa from Brunot Street about flowers or something, sea green, I forget. Sorry, I did read your email though. Go ahead, Rhea.
All right, thanks. I think I'm now unmuted and I'm sharing my screen. Is everybody able to see that?
Yep.
Great. Yes, you're right. It's about flowers. So hello, and I wanted to share information about a hopeful project that has been a collaboration between the Garden Club as well as the Sea Green Sustainability Group. And this vision is to create a native green space in the triangular area next to the Veterans Wall between High Street and Selden Avenue. And this project will improve the beauty of this area. It'll create an explosion of purples and yellows in celebration of Verona, and it'll be memorable, and you'll be able to view it whether you're entering or exiting Verona on ARB next to Plum Creek. It will also, I can get my next slide here. It will also reduce soil erosion in the steep bank. It'll increase biodiversity and ecological benefit of this area by providing native flowers specifically chosen to feed our local and valuable pollinators. And truly, they are a celebration of Verona's natural heritage as well, because they are native here. They will be low maintenance flowers. These flowers are perennials or self-seeding and tolerant of climate and rain patterns of our area. And lastly, this green space will be completely funded by direct donations from generous neighbors and the Garden Club. So I just want to go ahead. Are there any questions about why natives are important? I can let you know, otherwise we can skip it. We good? All right.
I'm
Great.
good, yeah.
All right.
Pollinators.
And we have it in our email too, if people want to read more about it.
Fantastic. So this is what it looks like currently, or at least this is what I got off of Google Maps. And this is what it would look like with. I think it's a drastic change. Very dramatic. And a couple other things I have here. I do feel like there should be some, I don't know if I'm using this term correctly, setback, but I feel like there needs to be some sort of setback or some sort of area that does not have these taller flowers bordering the sidewalk. So I had just created a 3-foot one here, and this should be to scale. And then I also have it set back 20 feet from the corner as well of High Street and Selden. I did want to note that what is shown will be a ground cover of some sort. We have not decided what ground cover yet, but it will be something low. And so with this setback, I have measured it out, and it will be about to those light poles here. This is where the stop sign is. I just added it there so that you could see that that pole was indeed the stop sign.
Looks very nice.
Thank you. And
Yes.
you'll be able to see it from ARB. This is from there. Let's see what else we
Hey.
have.
No.
These are the flowers that we would choose. I do have gray goldenrod listed here. We are instead considering a different flower. Someone on the project has an allergy, and so we want to be mindful of that. And so we're considering some other ones. So I did not share that with you, but it is this one here instead of the goldenrod.
What's that called?
Lanceleaf coreopsis.
That's easy for you to say.
It's pretty.
I like
pretty.
all of them.
Yeah. I like the color theme too.
Rita,
Yeah.
can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Do the deer like them?
That's a good question.
That could just destroy it like that.
That's a great question.
That is a good question. That's not one I checked into. I would like to know that as well. So I would be happy to find that out for us. I will say that I have a lot of these in my yard, and I also get deer in my yard, and our deer haven't eaten them. But I'll get a more specific answer. I did just want to show this is how much it would be, about 115 without the low ground cover. And again, this will be completely funded by residents and the Garden Club. Bottom line, it's a collaboration between Garden Club and Sea Green, lots of ecological benefits, manages water runoff, promotes healthy ecosystems, attracts, nourishes, and houses native birds, butterflies, and pollinators in all seasons. There are financial benefits because of the low maintenance cost. You don't need any mulch or to mow it. I will say that when creating a meadow like this, I have read that it's could behoove someone to trim it down in the spring of the second spring. It's because the flowers aren't super dense. Because the flowers aren't super densely grown together yet, and so this will, sorry, by mowing them down, it allows the earth to heat up more quickly and allows them to sprout sooner, so that it doesn't give a chance for things like bushes and other weeds to grow during that second year as they're still getting established. So I did say zero cost to the borough, but because these can be sown by seed at low cost, they're able to be funded by resident donations. But there is that cost of trimming that second year. Any other questions? I think what we're looking for is permission to move forward with this project. I am ready to purchase seeds. I'm very eager to do that.
I have one question, Rhea.
Mhm.
You know, when you're looking at the veteran wall, and you're talking about doing this all to the left, do we have any plans for that land that's on the right-hand side of the wall or the stairs?
It has been brought up that we could just continue this on the other side as well. I don't have the pricing for that, and I didn't have any pictures for that, but I do think that's a great idea.
Okay, great. Because I just think it would look nice, and we have the same problem on the other side with the erosion and everything else. Yeah, if nobody objects.
Yeah.
Rhea?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Rhoda Wharf, 636 3rd Street. You actually have a target date. I know you said you were going to go buy flowers, but do you have a target date? So if you're collecting donations, we'll know like when to give them to you?
No, but we will definitely establish a target date. Absolutely. I think we were trying to get council on board first.
Okay.
And then we will definitely put more energy into making it happen. You think
Okay.
there will be a lot of people interested in donating?
I think.
Yay. All right. Just taking some notes here. Look into deer and date.
Yeah, and check your messages there, Rhea.
My messages?
Your text messages.
Oh, okay. Like currently,
All
right
right.
now?
I have a question.
Oh.
Okay,
Yes.
but anyway, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, I would like to hear a motion.
Hold on.
to-
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting you. I do want to also explain that while it doesn't need to be, once it is established, it shouldn't need any extra watering, but the first year during its initial growing process, it will need to be watered. I don't think we have necessarily figured out how that's going to happen.
Yeah. A lot of people with a lot of watering cans. Okay, we'll have to figure that out. Just for the 1 year though, right?
Just for the 1 year while it's getting established.
And your plan is to do it this year?
Love that.
Okay. All right, so with all that in mind, would someone like to make a motion to go ahead with Sea Green Group plan for a
Garden
native
I'll make that motion.
garden club? Okay, motion by Ray Sechovich,
I'll second it.
second by Mike Forbeck. Any other questions or concerns?
Yeah, I have a few questions. The first is for Mayor Recupero. Mayor, is the area that Nancy was talking about on the other side of the steps, is that what you had brought up last year during the budget discussions about doing some landscaping there, or is that a different spot?
Now, that was, I believe, doing the steps itself. The concrete is starting to crumble.
Okay, so we'd still, you're talking about repairing the steps themselves, not landscaping on either side.
Right, the steps need repaired first. And I think, Rhea has a very good idea. That's very nice. And maybe just do it in steps at a time. Just that side, maybe this year, then next year we could do the other side of the steps. But yeah, the steps do need repaired.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I remember we talked about that as well. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood and see how that fit in with this this project. So I think, I mean, it seems like we could probably repair the steps independently of the meadow or the flower installation. I haven't looked closely at how bad the steps are or what exactly they would need, but okay, that answers my question. The other question I think is for Rhea. Did you say, so you'll be planting these from seed, correct? Versus I guess already existing plants. Forgetting my garden terminology here.
It's much more economical that way, yes.
Yeah, no, I figured that. So the only other, I think it's a great idea. I think I love the colors. I think this is a location that definitely needs it. I know that we did, I think last spring, I think we did on the right side of the steps here, we did I think it was a stormwater or sanitary sewer line replacement that was dug up. So I think if we could continue it to that side, eventually, maybe not at first, I think that would be great. But I think definitely helping the erosion and having something native that's gonna, not hopefully not leave space for invasive species. My only comment is this is similar to I worked on a rain garden project in Stanton Heights, and when I lived there, and it's a similar type of land with a road coming down at an angle like this and a hillside. And I think we all maybe thought it was going to be low maintenance or no maintenance, and it ended up being, I mean, we were planting existing plants, and it ended up, it was quite a bit of maintenance as far as weeding and just, kind of keeping out invasives for the first couple years. So kind of, I think by the time I left or since I moved to Verona, it's kind of just overgrown and been a little bit neglected. So I'm hoping that you guys have the volunteers and the energy to keep up with it and, protect the tiny plants or tiny flowers as they're growing. But yeah, I think this is a great idea.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that feedback. How many people did they have volunteering to maintain this in its early years?
That's a good question. I don't know, between Jess and I, we could probably find out and maybe compare notes, but I don't remember offhand. We had a bunch of people in the initial planting. It was really popular and had a lot of people involved. And I think maybe it was a product of not having enough people, a year later to continue maintenance. So I'm not at all trying to say that it can't be done or that it won't work. I'm just, it's just sometimes you think it's going to be low maintenance and it's a little bit more. So just maybe be prepared for that or plan accordingly. And I think hopefully it'll be a great success.
Thank you. Yes, I hope it will be too. And I want this to be a success. And so I don't want to move forward with this until we're positive that we can manage it and have the people power behind it as well. So I do appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Oh, and also you had mentioned the right side, and I don't see any reason to wait. I think that we can just go ahead and do it all in one shebang, if that works for everyone else.
I don't have any problem with that.
So we have a motion on the floor that the first was by Mr. Suchovich, second by Mr. Forbeck. We've had several questions. Any other questions or concerns from council at this time? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. All right, wonderful. Thank you, Rhea, and
Yes.
we'd love to hear your input on some of
the.
Wait, hold on a minute here. What's happening? Okay, good. Mute. I don't know whose phone is ringing. Oh, there we go.
I am also trying
Sorry.
to, oh, never mind.
There. Oh, wonderful. Thank you for stopping sharing. That's great.
I couldn't figure it out. This is like my 19th millionth Zoom and I forgot how to stop screen sharing. Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe as the project continues, you can give us an update.
I'd like that. That's great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And last but certainly not least is Angela Acapinti from the Garden Club.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep. Hi,
Okay.
Angela. Can we
Hi.
see you?
I'm trying. Hold on. No, you have me disabled with the video.
Now here, watch.
Okay, got it now.
All right, you're very dark.
Hold on.
Oh, there, that's
Let
better.
there be light. Okay, Angela Acapinti, 521 Center Avenue. Speaking on behalf of the Garden Club, I just wanted to give an update on the hanging baskets. We put a lot of thought into this. We spoke to a lot of residents with feedback from the businesses, and we have decided, we know that there is a financial issue going on with the borough. So we have decided to go ahead with the baskets. However, we have cut them back this year. We've gone from 44 baskets down to 26 within a 1 square block radius, which would be from center to south on Allegheny River Boulevard and from center to south on East Railroad. We are paying for those baskets from our own funds and our fundraiser money. So we're paying completely for those baskets and the delivery also. I know today we'll probably get a little bit more information on what kind of situation the borough's in as far as financials go, but we are hoping that there will be some money left in the budget to stick us back in there for the watering. I know that Nancy had already spoken to the borough workers, AJ, and they have agreed to do the watering like they did last year. The workload will be cut back almost in half now, so it won't be as many hours into it, but they'll still, the first watering would be in the mornings with their normal pay, but the second watering would be after hours, and they would need to be paid for that, and also on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday. Now we have a lot of fundraisers, you know, in the making right now, and we will help any way we can. But I don't know if maybe at the end of the meeting I'll have a better idea as if the borough can help with the paying of AJ, and it takes 2 people to water them. But if not, I mean, we have extra money left over in our account, plus we are doing fundraisers, and we're pretty confident that we could cover the wages if need be. And if we do run short, then we have volunteers also that have offered to take the cart possibly on the weekends or something and help out with the watering. But we didn't want to just not have any baskets this year. Everybody just loves those baskets. So we did cut back though. We sacrificed, we went down to the 26. I just wanted to keep you guys updated. The expected arrival would probably be sometime in June, because we got them in a little bit later this year. So, so we wouldn't have to pay anybody until June. And I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
I just wanted to clarify, when I talked to AJ about doing this, he kind of said, well, if you guys tell us to do it, we'll do it. But I don't think that that is their first choice, especially for the weekends. So I don't know, you know, we may need to discuss further what we can do to relieve the burden, because otherwise some of those guys are working 7 days a week and it's just,
Right.
just don't get a break. So,
Right. Okay. Well, we do have several volunteers who have offered. We would have to just have access to the watering cart, and they would need to be trained on how to water. And
right.
you know,
Right.
so we'll be able to work it out one way or another. So those baskets are going to come. So any way that the borough workers can help is great. If they can't do it on the weekends, then we'll work with that, and then we can gather some volunteers to do the weekends.
Yeah, or maybe we can work it out with them, you know, do the mornings, we'll do the evenings, or do the evenings, we'll do the mornings, or something like that.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
you do Saturday, we'll do Sunday, something like
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right, yeah. I think we can work it out. I think it'll be fine. But I just wanted to update you on what's going to be happening
Okay,
and when they're coming.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, at this time, if anybody has any additional agenda items that didn't make it onto the agenda and would like to share that with us at this time, go ahead. Anybody have anything? All right, great. We got everything on the agenda. Council will hear comments on all agenda items at this time. Please raise your virtual hand and clearly state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less if possible. And I see that Laura Jacko has her hand up.
Hi, Laura Jacko, 437 North Ave. I was actually just wanted to respond to what Angela said. First of all, I think that they're doing an awesome job in Garden Club, but I know, and maybe this isn't going to be possible to be the case anymore, but at one point there had been discussion for a while about getting a part-time person to help over the summer with watering, because I know we have some trees going in too. So I don't know if that's still in consideration, but you know, so that the poor people at the Department of Public Works don't have to work 7 days a week. I just wanted to bring that up. And I also just wanted to make sure that the tree trimming is on the agenda for tonight too, correct? I think,
Tree trimming?
yeah, Dave, I think Dave and I and Matt had talked about it a little bit, and I know that we wanted to bring up some updates on that to the next meeting.
No, sorry, I did not. Maybe I forgot, but I don't have that on the agenda. I haven't gotten any updates from Matt.
No, yeah, this was, so I had sent over the quote from the one arborist, and we were going to bring it up to see if council was okay with going forward for bringing an arborist in to assess everything.
Yeah, we may have to consider that after we hear the finance presentation tonight.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that,
Oh.
Laura. I either missed that or forgot that we talked about bringing that up tonight. So
Yeah, and maybe I misunderstood. Maybe you meant the next like larger council meeting, which would be, you know, in a couple of weeks.
yeah, I'd have to go. I don't remember the emails or the notes at this point. I know that Matt was supposed to get back with some more information in the contract, and we haven't heard anything. And I did not follow up with him lately, so I can follow up with him and see where he's at with that, and we can hopefully get it on for the next meeting.
Sure. And if it helps for the finance considerations part of it, I think the idea is that we wouldn't be paying the contractor the full amount that we were going to be paying them. So maybe some of that money could be used towards getting somebody in to document what happened so that we don't have to, you know, pay them the full amount and might get more out of them from it. So yeah, if we could get more info from Matt. I think you are right that he did want some more info from the contractor as far as their qualifications and if they met the bid specs. And you're correct, I don't think we've heard more information on that yet. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other hands raised at this time. So I'm gonna go ahead with my agenda items then.
Madam
Starting
President,
off-
there is one more hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Eric Hewitt, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Carpenter. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to raise my hand or not. I'm the principal at Riverview Junior Senior High School, and I just wanted to, I don't know if you talked about it yet, but I snuck in here and I wanted to thank everyone for the opportunity and the ability to be able to hang our seniors, our Verona seniors
yeah.
on the.
Mr. Hewitt, Mr. Hewitt, sorry to interrupt, but
Yes.
I have that on my agenda items. So
Thank you.
can we wait till we get to that? And then I would love to hear from you about that.
Sure, thanks.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to, and I can move the banners up to the top after we approve the meeting minutes, if that's okay. Anyway, everyone, I believe that you received the minutes a while back from Marcia, and unless there are any concerns or questions or changes to the minutes, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Suchovich, second.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Loalbo. Any other questions, changes, concerns about the meeting minutes? Okay, great, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, I had flags for high school seniors as number 4, but that could certainly be made number 1 or number 2 after the minutes. So, Mr. Hewitt, sorry to interrupt you, but go ahead and let's hear about the banners for the seniors.
Thank you. Yeah, we did them last year during the month of June. And we're hoping to be able to do that again this year in June for all our Verona seniors this year. They'll be graduating. It was an extremely popular event that we did. PTO and the teachers union have agreed to pay for those again. And I just got the sizes and the quotes from Ray Rogers today. I'm going to forward that on to our PTO, and we were hoping to be able to do that.
Yeah, so does everybody know what Mr. Hewitt's talking about? He's talking about the banners that go on the light pole, have pictures of the graduating seniors that are from Verona. And I believe we have plenty of space for, I think there's about 20 graduating seniors from this year's class from Riverview High School. And so that's what, I guess what's going to happen, the mayor's going to be talking about the banners for the veterans that are going to go on the light poles. They are going to go until Memorial Day, and then we'll put up the banners for the seniors from the high school. It's my understanding of how that'll work. Anybody have any questions or concerns with that? Okay, I think it's a go. I don't think we necessarily need to make a motion to hang the banners of the seniors. So I would say go for it. We're not spending any money on it.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
These kids are they're getting the short end of the stick with the schooling and everything to do all this. What's it hurt us to put a couple banners up to on them for all their hard work and effort?
Yeah, yeah. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. So moving on, everybody received the National Incident Management System resolution a couple of weeks ago. And I believe we are required to adopt this resolution as mandated by the PEMA Directive 2007-1. So this is a resolution to adopt the National Incident Management System from the Department of Homeland Security, which would provide a consistent nationwide approach for federal, state, local, and tribal governments to work together more effectively and efficiently to prevent, prepare for, respond to, and recover from domestic incidents, regardless of cause, size, or complexity. So I will take a motion to adopt the NIMS resolution.
I'll make the motion to adopt the NIMS resolution.
I'll second.
Okay. First by Mr. Forbeck, second by Mr. Suchovich. Any questions or concerns?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I did call Mr. Alexander the other day and he hasn't got back to me yet, but I know through different dealings, the NIMS project has different, and I don't know if that needs to be in this, but there's different number system. There's NIMS 100, there's NIMS 200, there's NIMS all the way up to 700, 800, 900. And I don't know if what program we need to do or be into should be in this resolution. I don't know if I'm stating it right, but I know before I retired at work, we had to do all the NIMS online training, and there was like I said, there was different ones for different things, but we had to do like 8 online trainings. So I don't know if that's something that we can add after the fact, or if that's something before we accept this that we check into and put this off for another till Mr. Alexander was able to find anything out and get back to us.
Well, it's my understanding that this resolution that you guys were all sent is a standard resolution that's adopted by every municipality. The trainings, I believe that Mr. Forbeck had mentioned about these trainings many, many months ago, and that having someone on maybe the emergency management committee go to some of these trainings, or have 2 or 3 council people go to the trainings would be a very good idea, but I don't think that we need to state that in the resolution.
I don't know. That's all I'm doing is asking.
Yeah, I also had a question about that. Similarly, item 4 says the Council of the Borough of Verona directs the appropriate borough officials and employees to take whatever steps are necessary. It just left me feeling a little confused at the open-endedness about exactly who we are directing to take what and by when.
Right.
So Mayor, we have the emergency management. I guess Dr. Carpenter, what we talked about before, there's different levels of training depending on, and I think that's what you were saying, Mr. Suchovich, is different levels of training depending on what your function are. Like you as fire chief would have many more, a much more in-depth training than myself. But it behooves all of us on council to have at least a 100 level training in NIMS. And as you go up and get more involved, it's additional training. I don't know whether it's separate from this. It seems to me, my understanding was that this resolution was separate. This was a general type of thing, and that the training was depending on what your level of activity is. But that's something we can check out with.
It very well might be. I just thought we should probably check into it. That's all.
Yeah.
If we can adopt this and then add an addendum to it next month.
pending Craig's review or
Right.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd understood from Mark Stanton was that this, and I don't know if Craig had mentioned it all, but I think, did Craig review it, Nancy? Or,
Greg wrote it.
right, yeah. So my understanding from them is that this is a pretty boilerplate standard resolution. It's required by the state. It says it in the resolution to be utilized, to use this NIMS system for emergency management within the entire state. And if you don't, then you could not get reimbursed for emergency or disaster declarations. So it seemed to me like this was a standard thing. And I not to discount Mr. Suchovich's questions. I just know that it's something we need to have, and it seems that whatever different levels of NIMS training would be necessary, then we could deal with that separately, like Mike suggested. But
Yeah, that was my impression as well. I think that we can adopt this resolution and that we should definitely look into the training and what's involved and who should take what training and do that on our own and make sure that we do take the training, or somebody does, or several of us do, or whoever's available. So I have a motion on the floor, first by Mr. Forbeck and second by Mr. Suchovich. Any other questions or concerns? Can we, go ahead and adopt this?
I'd be comfortable if we could maybe delegate a lead to just ensure that training question gets addressed.
Yeah, hold on. Okay, so I did text Craig, and he said the training part of it is not required. So we can adopt the resolution and then make it something that we do as a council to decide about the training and how we want to do that.
Very good.
So, barring any other questions or concerns, all those in favor of adopting the NIMS resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great, thank you. That sounds like a really good thing to get some of this training. The other resolution that I have here is the hazard mitigation plan resolution. Whereas the Borough of Verona of Allegheny County is most vulnerable to natural and human-made hazards, which may result in the loss of life and property, economic hardship, and threats to the public safety. They're suggesting and requiring that we adopt the hazard mitigation plan, which again is just sort of a general resolution that they're asking all municipalities in the county, at least, to adopt. So this again has to do with emergencies, and I don't know if there's training involved, but it's not required in terms of adopting this resolution. So can I have a motion to adopt the hazard mitigation plan resolution?
the
I'll make that
HMP.
motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, first by Mr. Suchovich, second by Mr. Forbeck. Any questions or concerns about this? No. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? No, great, thanks. Okay. The other things under my agenda items are to let everybody know that Marcia has cut back to 3 days a week working at the office, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And she will be coming in for a little bit on Monday and a little bit on Friday to check messages and all of that. And but essentially there won't be anybody in the office on Mondays and Fridays. So I'm thinking it might be best if we say that the Borough Office of Verona is open Tuesday through Thursday, 8 to 4, and that the office is closed Monday and Friday for the time being until we would get a borough manager that would be there 5 days a week. So
You
it's not the
saying-
whole building is closed, just the borough office is closed on Monday and Friday. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I guess my question is, are you saying to post this, or would this be a response if someone calls in on the phone and goes through the litany of numbers, or? I mean,
Well,
they can call in and leave a message, right? For
they can call and leave a message, yep. And she will check those messages on the day she's not there and check the mail on Monday and Friday for like an hour. She'll be down there. I would think that we should post the borough office hours, put them on that little window there. You know, maybe we could put that out on our Facebook page and the website and things like that. So,
Maybe a phone message too, Nancy, when people call in.
that's easier said than done. Soon as we figure out the phone system, I'd love to be able to put on a new phone message.
I'd put a number to go to your direct number.
Pardon me?
I'd say press 4 to go to Dr. Carpenter.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, we'll work all that out. I don't know that we need a motion to say that we're changing the office hours, and generally motions are for, you know, bigger stuff.
It's a
Sorry,
temporary,
guys.
it's a temporary.
Temporary thing, but I just basically wanted to make that announcement. We'll put a sign up and spread the word, basically. Okay. So I have on my agenda item, the emergency management coordinator again. Just people think about if you want to be on the committee, if you're interested in being emergency management coordinator, let me know. And, you know, that we'd love to have you. And the only other thing I wanted to say was council chamber, we were thinking about maybe opening it in April and starting to have hybrid meetings. I'm thinking that because of the uptick in cases in the country, the state, the county, and Verona, that I would like to table that consideration and only have it in May at the earliest. In the meantime, we need to figure out how to stream the meetings as well. So we're not going to be having meetings at the chamber in April. And that is it for me. So next is Mayor Dave Recupero.
Talking to myself.
You're still muted, Dave.
Okay. I don't know how that happened, but anyways, I'll start over again. 25 years ago, Verona celebrated their 125th anniversary, celebrated in the town, and we, Chamber of Commerce, came up with the first annual cart cruise. This year will be our 25th cart cruise. It will be August 14th. And I had asked the board at the last meeting to consider us allowing to have it, considering depending on the situation at that time. And I would like to go forward with that. I really don't need a motion. I just want to let you know we're going to hopefully go forward with that to celebrate the 150 years with Verona. Also, Off the Rail Barbecue there on Allegheny River Boulevard. He's asking me if I could close off from James Street to the turnoff there. He would like to also do a car cruise, I believe, once a week there, and to help promote business at his place. So I don't know how everybody feels about that. I don't have a problem shutting the street down. There is two entrances to get to Jones Street into the shopping center. It's not going to create a problem. And the other thing I have is Mr. Rich Rosenberg. Most of you know him as the school principal up at Riverview High School. He is retired. He is very active in a Riverview Community Church up in Oakmont. And there's a program called Farms to Table. It's government run. And what this program is, it'll feed 100 to 150 people, 30-pound box. It'll have milk, fruit, vegetables, etc. It'll come in a box truck, and he's asking for a spot in Verona to park the truck there. And the chief and I came up with the parking lot over by the Eagles. And the dates would be the 4th, April 4th and April 21st. And the time would be 12 o'clock till the food ran out. And it's no cost to the borough. They're just feeding people that need food, both from Oakmont and Verona. And I just want to let everybody know that, I don't know how you feel about it. I think it's a good thing to do. I really don't know if we need a motion on that, but if you want to, that would be fine. And once again, that's the program is called Farms to Table, and it's government run. It's free, a box of food to people who need it.
When, Mayor?
So
what dates were that?
what's that?
What dates were that? Was that?
April 7th and April 21st. Okay. And if it's a good turnout, they're going to continue it as long as it's funded through the government, as long as they continue to, bring boxes of food to the program.
Dave, what is the time on that, please?
12 o'clock till the food runs out.
Okay, thank you.
12 o'clock in the afternoon until it runs out. There'll be approximately 150 boxes to go out between Verona and Oakmont.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Does anybody
Dave.
have a problem with that? Because I got to let them know. All right, and lastly, please lock your car doors. Communities throughout the area, especially across the river. If you heard on the news, 2 communities, I believe one was Aspinwall, and I think the other one was Sharpsburg. I'm not sure, but they had a lot of break-ins over there. And it's inevitable, but please remember to lock your doors, your car doors, and your house doors also. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Dave. Okay, next up is Dave Matlin, Budget Finance Report.
All right, thank you, Madam President. I have a few items here. The first, I just wanted to give an update on the American Rescue Plan allocations. Whoops, I'm gonna share my screen here, just so people can see what I'm talking about. So as many of you may know, President Biden signed into law the, can you see that? Is that not? Yeah. The latest stimulus bill for the coronavirus pandemic on March 11th. Many of you may have heard in the news or in other media about there is some relief for state, county, local governments in that bill. And so from the last COG meeting, we had a good presentation on kind of the summary of the latest information we know. And there's also a webinar today that I caught a bit of and saw the slides on. So I just wanted to give everyone an update in case anyone has questions about how this will affect Verona. So basically it's For municipalities less than 50,000 in population, which would include us, the funding is going to be released to states, state by state by May 10th. The states apparently have 30 days from May 10th to distribute those funds to the municipalities. The latest estimate I saw was that Verona would get an allocation of $238,000. The way that works is we would get half of that this year, probably in May or June, roundabout, and then the other half 12 months later. All of the money from that would have to be spent by December 31st, 2024. And then there's some kind of vague guidelines about how those funds can be spent. So I listed them here pretty much verbatim from, this is the source that the COG shared, the Center for Community Progress. They have a pretty good article or blog post about it. There's a lot of questions here about what exactly this means. The webinar today from the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs, even the attorneys that are looking at this, they don't know yet. There isn't a lot of guidance. They said it often takes several months for that guidance to come down to auditors and lawyers and governments about what they're allowed to spend it on. I don't think it's anything. They caution that it's something you don't want to wait too long to spend it, obviously, but you also don't want to rush to spend it either. So I think it's something we don't need to act on right away, even in the next few months necessarily. But I just wanted to update council and the public on what the situation was there with that and the latest information. So I'll certainly share any updates I get through COG or other sources on, especially on what is allowable expenditures there. So there's that. The next item I had, I don't have a slide for it, but let's see. Stop sharing. The next item I had was this RAA agreement. There was back in 2017 or 2018, some of you on council or from the public may remember there was an agreement that was discussed or initiated between the borough and Riverview Athletic Association. This was partly to deal with the new LED lights project at Cribbs Field, as well as define the maintenance duties for the borough and for RAA, because RAA does do some maintenance on the fields, the infields themselves. And this came up last year due to some issues with the maintenance at Cribbs Field. There was some confusion about who was doing what. So I was in some meetings, and I think either Mr. Forbeck or Dr. Carpenter may have been on those as well, with myself and a couple folks from RAA. Basically, long story short, we spent months trying to find a signed or executed copy of the agreement. I checked with Craig, I checked with borough manager, the borough office, everything. Couldn't find it. So we basically come to the point where we know there was intent to have an agreement. I think it's good to have an agreement so that everyone knows who's responsible for what. And I've talked to the president of RAA, Rich Ogrodowski. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And he's very willing to help us, work through and come up with a new draft for this agreement, so that's agreeable by both RAA and the borough. So just so we have something in place going forward. So he's still working on some of the revisions. I can share the old draft with anyone who would like to see it. It's kind of got a bunch of markups, and there's some things that are probably going to change just because of things that may just need to be revised over several years. But I'm hoping that we can have something soon that I can circulate with council. have everyone review, and then get executed this time so that we actually have something on in our files. So if anyone, I don't know if anyone on council or the public, if you have any comments or questions about it, or just in general, our relationship with RA, I'm trying to keep a good relationship with them. And again, this just goes back to our discussions last year. So I'd be glad to take any comments or questions on that. But I just wanted to share an update that agreement was coming, and that it'll be coming out to you as a draft for review for a future meeting. So the other item here is a review of our fiscal position and reviewing fund balance projections. I know at the last couple meetings we've been talking about some financial difficulties and anticipating the DCD audit for 2020 that's been in the works. That audit is still not quite complete, but we do have updated numbers from our auditor that help shed light on kind of where we stand at the end of 2020 and where we currently stand, thanks to Ms. Susan Hockenberry as our consultant doing a cash flow analysis and some other review of our fiscal position. So I'm gonna turn it over to her for the first portion to discuss more details about that.
Great. Hi, can everybody hear me okay? Yes?
Yes, yes.
Great, thanks. Thanks for confirming. Well, good evening, Mayor and members of Council, Council President, Dr. Carpenter. Thank you all for having me here tonight and engaging me to assist Verona Borough transition to an even more capable and exciting place for the borough. It's fun to sit through your agenda and hear all the community engagement you have and the projects, and looking forward to warmer days and coming to visit you all in Verona. So you will recall that I was originally engaged to provide some interim management assistance to the borough and help evaluate the expectations and job description and search for a municipal manager. As part of that interim management assistance, I assisted the borough in resolving the minimum municipal obligation challenges in terms of getting that all aligned and completing that audit. In the course of both of those activities, doing the review and assisting with the MMO, we look closely at the fiscal position of the borough, particularly through the report that is the annual audit or annual financial statement for the borough. And so that revealed some challenges, and so that was a preliminary review. And in the time since I met with you all, I think on March 9th, to provide some training so that you could approach those challenges in an empowered way. We've done some deeper analysis, and that's what I have presented in a report. It was actually dated the 28th, which Dave, can you confirm, did council receive all of that in advance of tonight?
Yes, they did.
Thank you. So I just have a few slides. I'm not going to go through it to the depth and breadth that we did when we met on previously, but I would like to go through a couple slides to hopefully provide some clear data points as to the borough's cash position and budgetary position. So just a couple of things to set the stage here. The purpose of your financial system is to be supportive of what you do on an ongoing basis, depending sort of on what time of year it is. It's a circle. A circle I like to liken to a wheel. It's the wheel that you drive, that you ride on as you drive the borough forward. There's a there's a budget process and capital planning process. There's a monitoring of your compliance with your budget. And then there is the official statement or conclusion on the performance of your community. And that's your annual financial report, which is prepared in Verona's case by your auditors, and you utilize the DCED report. DCED, and I apologize if I use any acronyms too abundantly. I love acronyms. Interrupt me anytime. DCED stands for the Department of Community and Economic Development, and it is the state agency that assists and oversees and supports local governments throughout Pennsylvania. So this is a picture of the cover of the 2019 DCED audit and financial report. And as Dave said, we were hoping we would have your 12/31/20 report, but some additional work is being done by the auditor to maximize the information, clean up some information. And so that's not ready for tonight. So some of the information that I'm going to present, or all of the information I'm going to present, is based on the actual completed 2019 audit report. And so the top level information that I'd like to share as a result of my analysis is to restate that the borough has for several years been carrying an increasing liability to its sewer fund from its general fund. So put simply, the general fund has been owing the sewer fund a significant amount of money over a few years. For the end of 2020, which you have your audit report, your auditor will give you a definitive specific number. But based on our verbal discussions with him and the progress he's making on the audit, that amount is estimated for December 31st, 2020 to be $639,000. Now, like I said, I'm going to talk the remainder of my time focusing on the 2019 report. So why does that matter? So you have a general fund, which is your major operating fund for the borough, and you have a sewer fund. You have a couple others. You have a liquid fuels fund. And funds are very, very important for governments. They are a critical feature of government accounting, and they're distinct from for-profit or nonprofit accounting because of the special duty and burden public officials have to protect and monitor public money. So I have a little graphic on this screen, and I'm sorry if this is a little fuzzy. These are snips right from my report. I just cut some of the text out and dropped it in there in the slide, but I hope you can see it okay. So on this slide, I have a picture of these pots here. Those are to symbolize the structure of funds. Funds are self-balancing separate sets of accounts, and they actually exist to facilitate easy bookkeeping and financial reporting. A fund exists when there is a legal restriction or obligation or a specific purpose for assets, like revenues, and they need to be separated from the others. There's a lot of funds out there with different names, and they are categorized into types. And the focus of this report is on the governmental fund types at Verona, which are comprised of the general fund and the special revenue funds, and your sewer fund is a special revenue fund. So each one of those funds should be a pot of its own. That's the structure, and that's important from a legal and accounting point of view. So what's happened in Verona is, as I said, there has been the general fund utilizing resources from the sewer fund. And this is as of 12/31/19, it was $661,279. You can see the line here that says due to the sewer fund. And you can see over here in the sewer fund, the line titled due from the general fund, and that is the same amount. And the consequence of the general fund owing the sewer fund that money is that puts your general fund in a deficit of, at the end of 2019, $343,798. So, there's a lot of contributing factors as to how the interfund liability was incurred. This again comes straight from the report. And if you'll bear with me, I know there's 5 points here, but I'd like to make them. So how did the interfund liability happen? So first of all, the borough did not maintain those fund segregations. So think of those pots. The borough maintained within its internal accounting system one fund and commingled all of those resources. So by not having separate pots, what happened at the end of the year, I like to use the analogy of granola. So when you buy granola, it has maybe some oatmeal in it, it has some raisins in it, maybe has some sesame seeds in it. And it would be a lot easier if you wanted to eat just the oatmeal or just the raisins or just the sesame seeds if those were separated, right? And you bought a bag of sesame seeds and you bought a bag of oatmeal and you bought a bag of raisins. In Verona's case, what was happening is the auditor was taking that bag of granola and then separating out, literally picking out the oatmeal from the sesame seeds from the raisins. And that was a consequence of having a single fund and not maintaining segregated funds. It would have been easier and superior if the oatmeal and the raisins and the sesame seed had been kept separately so that the fund reporting could be done. But that was not occurring. So that was the first obstacle to understanding the financial position of the borough. The second thing is after the auditor did perform the annual report, that annual report was not monitored for the interfund liabilities. Although it was presented there, what each fund had in terms of its financial resources and what each fund was owed by the other, it was not monitored by any borough officials. Thirdly, the borough did not maintain separate bank accounts for the sewer and general funds. So every fund will have at least one bank account, and you did not, although you had a sewer fund structure and you had a sewer bank account, the resources for the sewer operation were not kept separate from the general fund operation. And because of that, you were unable to do item 4 here, which was to produce interim balance sheets. That's what your monthly reports, that's your monthly reports that you approve each month when council approves the financial statements. They did not include a balance sheet. And without a balance sheet, you could not see or perform the appropriate, they're called due tos and due froms. And that's literally accounting transaction that show when one fund borrows from another, the fact that it is owed between the two funds is recorded on the balance sheet through these accounts that are called due to and due from. So since you didn't have interim balance sheets or fund segregations, you couldn't see that on a day or a month in and month out basis. And then lastly, because the sewer fees were deposited into the general fund checking account, as the sewage treatment and the sewage treatment fees were also paid from it, so the bills to Alcosan, the borough was unable to see the difference between the sewer fund fees and the sewer expenses, and to see the extent to which the sewer fund was covering shortfalls within the general fund through the surpluses of the sewer fund. So again, I know that's a lot of dense information. I appreciate you letting me go through that, but that's important to understand how you got into this situation. Okay. So the implications of this are presented, I think, quite nicely on this graph. So this graph shows for 2017, let me turn on my little pointer here. For 2017 and 2018 and 2019, 3 pieces of information. One is the total amount of cash that was in your general fund, reported on your financial statements as cash, like the bank account. The second number is, and that's the green, the second is the amount that the general fund owed to other funds, the sewer fund primarily, at the same period. So you can see here at the end of 17, there was $739,782 in cash. It also owed other funds. The general fund also owed other funds, $644,608. The fund balance for the general fund, that's the difference between revenues and expenditures plus your opening balances. So basically a profit, if you will, or your retained earnings if you're in business, at the end of 2017 was $94,359. So although the general fund owed a significant amount of money to the sewer fund, you still posted basically a profit. In 2018, that reverses. It's that number goes into a deficit position. So you have cash on hand of 416,000, but you owe the sewer fund $558,340 at that point, which results in that deficit of 144,000. And that continues the following year, when at the end of 19, you had $329,787 in general fund cash, but you had a liability to your sewer fund of $672,207, resulted in that deficit I previously mentioned of $343,789. So that's the history of how you got to the situation that you're in now. So what does that mean going forward? So if you look at your 2021 budget, your your adopted 2021 budget had a revenue amount of 3.1, I'm going to round off a little bit here, $3.1 million. But as part of that, sewer rental fees were included, and they were included in the amount of $853,000. When you take that off of your $3.1 million, your net revenue, the actual general fund revenue, roughly, because I think the liquid fuels is in there too, but we'll pull that out subsequently. For the purpose of this analysis, it's fine, because the expense for the sewer, the expense for the liquid fuels fund is in there too, so we're fine. So your resulting actual revenue for the general fund is approximately $2.3 million, $2,296,000. That's the income. The outflows or your expenditures were budgeted at $3.1 million, 3.149, and the sewage treatment costs that were budgeted were $550,000. So when you take those expenses out of there, you have $2,599,625. So you can see that you are going to collect more in sewer fees than you are in sewage treatment. And the difference between that was basically part of the funding plan for the general fund, that $303,000, $303,195. So you are in a situation where you need to make budgetary adjustments to correct so that you are not relying on sewer fees in the general fund for 2021. You will need to adjust that for the $303,000, but that only gets you back to a fund balance of zero. That's just eliminating the deficit that you have because of the dependency on the sewer fund. You also need to set a fund balance target and a fund balance, an amount of a rainy day fund that you want to have at the end of 2021. The bare minimum for that by professional standards and best practices is 5%. And that for you is about $100,000. So you're looking at an estimate of $400,000 worth of adjustments that need to be made for 2021. Some other things that need to occur are the accounting system upgrades, which are currently underway. Those were already talked about at your business meeting earlier this month in terms of you appointed bookminders and ADP. But you also need to establish a policy of what your minimum fund balance is going to be every year, and then your funding and spending plans have to be in support of that. Sorry about that banner coming up. Let that rest a second. There we go. And then additionally, you need to have some policies about what a capital improvement is in Verona. A plan to schedule those out, maybe over a 5-year time period, and then seek funding for those, as opposed to just sort of seeing funding opportunities arise and then just planning to do that project. Not that you don't take advantage of those opportunities that they arise, but that's the purpose of a fund balance. A fund balance is to give you that resiliency so that you can take advantage of such opportunities. And then lastly, you still need to make the sewer fund whole for the liability. So this just addresses your current challenge in terms of operating your general fund. You still have a significant liability to your sewer fund. You still need to reimburse it for that 600 and 600 odd, 670 odd $1,000. That's an activity that you'll need to start doing in 2022 to correctly attribute resources of the borough to their intended purposes. So I think that's all I have. Oh, just one last thing. Now that sounds a little daunting. I'm sensitive to that. I want to go back and remind you to focus on some of the things we talked about in our training, and those are essential questions that public officials should be asking about their financial operation. These were the 10 things that we talked about in class that day. You certainly have the capability and certainly the commitment in your town to address these challenges, so focusing on these areas and performing these specific activities, I think will be helpful for you moving forward. So as I said, you have a lot of assets going for you. It's a delight to sit through your meeting and hear all the positive projects. This is really just a part of that as well. You are building the future. I'm going to note that Dave has looked over the report and has lots of ideas about where to go next. And so I'm going to turn that back over to you, Dave, and I can take any questions as well. So that completes my report.
Thank you, Susan. I think it was very well explained and maybe a bit sobering, but I do agree that we do have the capability to address these problems and move forward and look towards the future. So I don't know if anyone from council has any questions on Susan's report. Okay. I will go ahead then with the rest of what Susan kind of hinted at. As far as what to do about the immediate issue with the general fund and finding solutions to that number she gave was to the tune of $400,000 for this year 2021. So can everyone see the slide here? So I put this together just over the last couple of days because again we did get some better information last week that helped Susan and Nancy and myself review this. This is basically a rough draft of potential things that are currently in our budget for 2021 that we could look to either cut or reduce. Since we're well into the year, the calendar and fiscal year, we can't adjust our revenues. The taxes are fixed. Really, the only tool we have now is to adjust our spending. So, like Susan mentioned, there's the action to take this year for this year's budget or this year's spending, but there's also the longer term plan over the next few years to deal with the interfund liability. But this right here basically just looks at this year's expenditures that are proposed. So I think this is a good start. I'm certainly open to feedback from council, from the public. This is a starting point, to work on and continue on. And I think I'm looking towards the rest of council, the mayor, the public to help in this process to review these things and figure out what we can do to get things back on track. So just to go over some of these items, The first item is the comprehensive plan grant match that was budgeted for $10,000 to cover a grant match for a potential new comprehensive plan. Again, we can discuss all these in further detail at a future meeting, but my understanding is that this plan may be pushed to 2022, so we wouldn't be spending that this year anyway. The second one was an initial payment on a potentially new DPW truck, a Ford F-550, for about $22,000. That was in conjunction with selling the existing Peterbilt, which is a very large truck that requires a CDL license. We may, be able to discuss not buying a new truck, and either, we could look to sell the Peterbilt or keep it, but we wouldn't have this new expenditure. Another one was the Second Avenue Phase 2 resurfacing or paving. Everyone's probably familiar with what we did last spring to pave from Wildwood or Verona Road up to Wood Street. This was the second phase. We had budgeted this to be paid out of the liquid fuels account. It wasn't part of a grant project at this time, or at the time of the budget. It was an amount of $95,000. We could look to scrap that and for this year, and then I'll get to how we would save money by spending other items out of the liquid fuels account. The other item here is the Center Avenue Storm Sewer Extension, which we've talked about with Matt for several years now. It also does not have a grant. It would improve the drainage conditions on Center near Athletic. We have budgeted $60,000 for that. There's an LED street lighting upgrades project. We were going to continue with Duquesne Light to convert additional street lights to LEDs. We budgeted $11,000 for that. Again, these are things that I've identified that probably aren't essential. They're certainly not operating expenses, and we may be able to cut for this year in order to get to where we need to be. And then two items: road salt and street lighting, basically electricity for that. It totals about $100,000, and in reviewing with Susan, we can actually pay this out of this liquid fuels account. They are allowable expenses out of that account. That is money that comes from the state, I believe through PennDOT, each year. And instead of putting this Second Avenue resurfacing out of that, we could move the road salt and street lighting to liquid fuels account, and that would save that amount in the general fund. Another item would be the part-time crew member for parks maintenance and support. We did originally talk about hiring two part-time summer DPW crew members, one for the parks and one for general duties or watering. We could potentially cut one of those back. Again, those are all up for further discussion, review, comment. Other items I didn't get into because they're smaller dollar amounts, but there's some miscellaneous improvements I know we talked about for the police department. Some of those I think we'd want to take a closer look at what's necessary, what's nice to have, that sort of thing, maybe rank them. There's parks and rec improvements as well these are kind of in the capital category, or at least non-operating costs. And then the landscaping and hanging basket costs. If we aren't doing some of the landscaping by the Veterans Wall that we had sort of budgeted a little bit for, because of Rhea's great project to put in flowers, that may save us some money there anyway. So that's kind of what I've come up with so far. Again, I'd like to get more feedback, and we're going to need to have a discussion about this with the public. I wanted to put this out here now just so everyone can see it, think about it. stir, comments and questions. But I mentioned it, I sent this to council last night. I also sent a suggestion that we have a budget review or discussion session for the 2021 budget to review, revisit these expenses and what could be, reviewed, reallocated, reduced, eliminated, whatever, we decide. And let's see. So there's a few things we could talk about in this future meeting. The 2021 budget review, like I mentioned, also as Susan mentioned in her report, the borough defining the capital expenses so that we have ability to make a capital plan and have clearly defined capital improvements on that plan, and also determining our policy for the minimum fund balance for the general fund. That's up to council. That's just a policy decision. Susan has been gracious enough to make some recommendations, so we can use that as a starting point for what we feel comfortable with there. So I think this session could take the form as either a special separate meeting. I threw out, a Tuesday evening or another weekday or weekend, or part of the April 13th regular business meeting. Maybe we could start an hour early. So I know I mentioned this to council last night. I don't know if anyone, I think it's important that we do this soon so that we can have a better idea of our expenditures for the rest of the year. I don't know if anyone from council has any thoughts on that, on when we might look to schedule this. I know there's several other, there's a rec board meeting next week on Tuesday. There's maybe some other community meetings. So,
We have our finance committee meeting next Monday, right?
Yeah, we have a finance and DPW committee next Monday afternoon.
Monday afternoon. That could tee us up for the rest of this.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
No, that's fine. I mean, obviously we need to discuss with everybody. I understand that, but and we all need to go back and really put our thinking caps on and take a look at a lot of these things. And from the discussion before, I'm wondering even some of the American Rescue Plan could be able to help with some of this in some ways for some of the infrastructure projects too. So those are all unanswered questions. And I guess we assume that we don't have that and see what we can cut now anyhow, and then maybe be able to go back with that later.
Yeah, I think we can definitely look once we have more information about that rescue plan. I think because we're only getting half of the money now or this summer, and it may take us until 2022 to even spend that much. I think we need to keep that money separate and track it and not use it until we have a clear definition on what we can use it for. But I think definitely if that helps us out in the end, that's great. I don't know that we can bank on that. But does anyone have any suggestions for when we hold this? This will be a public meeting or part of the regular business meeting to have a discussion on the budget items, the items that I presented, as well as any others, to try to get us back to that 400,000 level.
I missed part of what you said, Dave.
Sorry, I was just looking for council to weigh in on when we would want to have this public meeting, whether we'd want to have it at the next business meeting, as part of the next business meeting, or separately. I believe we would have to advertise it in advance. We could check with Craig on that, but unless it's part of the regular business meeting.
Yeah, I like the idea of having a separate meeting. I don't want to just have it be ahead of April's meeting on the 13th, because I think that cuts us short I think that we will need more time than that. But if we have to advertise it, then I guess that, what's today, the 30th? Say we got that in by the 1st, it has to be what, 7? I don't remember how long it has to be. Susan, how long do we have to advertise a meeting like this for?
Yeah, a special meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, as soon as you schedule that, that's a Craig question more, but a month usually is typical, but
I thought, I was thinking more in the lines of 7 days, that it has to be before the meeting, but let me check with him.
that may be true. I'm sorry, Nancy, I don't know.
Okay. Sorry to ask. I
Probably the
sorry.
sooner the better, Dave.
I mean, would it just be easier to try to have this as part of the regular business meeting if we started early? I mean,
With everybody, started early with everybody,
yeah, it would be
The
public.
special meeting at 6.
but then wouldn't we have to advertise that as well?
You would still have to advertise it.
Okay.
We could confirm with Craig. I thought that it was, we, in the past, I think we've done this, or the zoning hearing board, at least I know, changed their meeting last week. I don't know if it's the same policy, but we could try to decide on something and review it with Craig and make sure that it's enough time. But I'm open to alternate ideas.
If
Excuse
it's
me.
enough time, I'm good with that too.
Excuse me, Dave, just one comment, and that is, obviously you need to have your audit done before you do that. So you have actual numbers from 12/31/20.
Yeah. And it seems like that for the 13th, I would think that it should be done by then.
Yeah, right. It should be.
So, yeah, I definitely figured anything this week was probably too early. I want to give people time to digest, but I also want to try to have it sooner we can. So, does anyone have? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and what you're working towards there is a budget amendment that reallocates, basically to a reserve to build that fund balance up. Every project that you eliminate would go to a reserve, or your fund balance reserve, because that's the same place that you fill the hole in your budget, as well as the accumulated deficit that you brought into the year. So that's why it's 400, because you need to amend your budget to not spend 300, but then you also need to amend your budget to find 100 to have at the end of the year in your fund balance amount.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So does anyone have any major objection to tentatively planning from April 13th, starting at 6 p.m., pending Craig's confirmation that is enough time to advertise?
I just think that makes that night unbelievably long if we try to have the rest of the meeting going on as well. I'd like us to try to find a separate time for that meeting. Otherwise, it's our business meeting. We have all the other business to do.
Hey, why don't we sit down Monday? When we sit down, we'll come up with a day and go
Yeah,
from
let's
that.
do that.
Well, okay, but anyway, I have a text into Craig right now, and if people don't have any other questions immediately about all of this, why don't we go ahead with the agenda, and then whenever I go between people, if Craig's answered me, I'll let you guys know.
Okay, and I mean, worst case, we can, like Ray said, we can set up a date at the, later, and we'll announce it.
Well,
make everyone aware.
okay, but we need it to be a date when people can attend.
Well, that's why I was hoping to do it maybe on the same night as the business meeting, but
I don't think I can do 6 hours of a meeting or 5 hours of a meeting. This is a long meeting to try and figure this stuff out.
Well, I don't know. If you limit the budget meeting to a certain amount of time too, then we can also go back to that again, right? I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be all resolved, but
Oh,
okay.
anyway, those are just my thoughts. But let's see what Craig says. And then in the meantime, if you're complete with your report for now, Dave, why don't we go ahead with Mr. Forbeck and see what information I get here.
yeah, just real quick, I do want to call a brief executive session following to discuss personnel.
And we may need to come back.
Yes, we may need to come back for that.
So what that means, just so, you know, I don't know, this may be the first time we've done it like this. In terms of coming back for the public, if you want to stay on this Zoom link, we have a separate Zoom link to have our exec session. We'll mute and turn our video off. We'll go to the other link, have our exec session. And if we decide to come back, we'll come back and vote on something. And if we decide not to, then we'll let you know. And you don't have to stay, but you can stay, is what I'm saying. Go get a bite to eat or something while we're having an exec. So, okay,
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
thank you. Mr. Forbeck, go
Yeah,
ahead.
thanks, Madam President. Okay, a couple of items wanted to bring up. There's dealing with the salt shed is one. Apparently, this is sort of like Groundhog Day. We're back to where we might be looking at another place to locate a salt shed in the borough of Verona, because I don't understand. My understanding is that the sharing with Oakmont was not necessarily working to everyone's needs. So what we're going to do is take. There was some talk of possibly looking at an area that owned by the Felino in a Felino property, and that was closed on a couple months ago. I'm just in the process of more investigating that more and finding out if there was any legs to that deal. Talking to AJ, they would just like to locate a place in a flat area. I don't think anybody here in council really wants it to be back at the river. And certainly, and in addition to that, if we do ever locate one, there's certain criteria that this shed now has to meet, best management practices under the EPA and DEP requirements. That I have that too. So I just let you know, we are starting to investigate that. We want to get something in place that will not be at the river if possible. So that's going on. The other issue I wanted to bring up, and this is part of the, it's kind of parlaying into the ordinance committee, was dealing with all the vacant lots and the maintenance that the DPW had been taking care of. I just got a cost estimate today. I really didn't research it much. I need to talk to AJ a little bit more, but just for grass cutting alone. So we're trying to figure out, we want to get cost recovery for all this maintenance that Verona Borough has been doing for all these vacant lots, so we can put that back into our coffers and possibly put a lien on this property. So that's it. I'm in the process of trying to figure that out. And Trish, I think there's what, 5 or 6 vacant lots, something like that, that we may be able to get a cost for one, and we might be able to estimate for the remainder. So I will keep council apprised on that. And there's a few other items that I just haven't had a chance to talk to AJ about. As you know, a little bit things happening last week. So, and that's all I have to report for tonight. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Forbeck. Moving on to Trish Redzak Showalter.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. The first item on my list for tonight is that we are moving forward with interviewing two of the four firms who've submitted proposals for the joint UCC board with Oakmont. However, based on some recent feedback we received, we decided to just go ahead and interview all four who have submitted proposals. And we hope to have this service in place in the very near future. I will keep everyone updated. Thank you, Sylvia, who's also on the ordinance committee, who will be joining me representing Verona for these interviews. Second item is I just wanted to let everyone know that earlier this year, we had approved the demolition of 423 North. However, that has yet to be given a determination by the county to move it onto that grant. And at this point, I spoke with the borough engineer. We think it's probably unlikely. And if it's not added, we will consider moving forward with the Act 152 grant to demolish that property along with 1 to 2 others. The third item on my list is just ordinances underway. Although several items have been brought to the ordinance committee's attention, we're sort of pausing on ordinance generation until we can secure our new service, both for building inspection, and we're hoping to have the option to also have that same service cover the majority of our code enforcement as well. Finally, an update on the welcome sign / wayfinding project with the Oakmont Verona Rotary. Thank you to Mr. Peppers, who summed up the project so beautifully earlier this meeting. So I am helping the Rotary also in this project to look into grants to complement the Rotary's generous fundraisers to secure the first sign. If they're able to secure enough funding, potential grants could be used for the additional signs that they would like to see done over the next couple of years in conjunction with this project. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
You're muted, Nancy.
Sorry, I'm dealing with a difficult situation here. Mr. Suchovich, you're next.
One thing I want to ask about is the code enforcement. We don't have a building inspector now. And there was an issue on one of our fire calls that I needed somebody, and I used to be able to call Mark. Are we anywhere near hiring a code enforcement officer? Does anybody know if that's in the works, or we need somebody? With that being said, I just want to bring that up. We need to get going on a code enforcement officer. I did get pricing for the police car striping. I don't think we want to deal with that right now with the money situation, but I have the pricing. The fire truck, we had a fire call over on North Avenue last Thursday evening. And in the pump, there's a plug that blocks up the pump so we can drain and whatever out of there. That plug came out of, I just want to let council know, that pump came out of, or that plug came out of the pump. So we had to call to our repairman. He came out Friday afternoon and we got it fixed. Thank God he was able to drop the drive shaft. We helped him and we got that fixed. So just so you know, there'll be some type of bill coming for that. Police contracts up the end of this year. I think we need to sit down as a committee and try to start getting some proposals from them and from us and everything like that. And I do have a couple questions, but this I'll bring up to Dave and Matt at our meeting about the pension funds. So that's all I have at this point. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Ray. Mrs. Loalbo, you're up next.
Madam President, can I just answer Mr. Suchovich's question?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Regarding the inspection, if anyone missed it, Susan did note for all of our knowledge in the future, we can actually call Oakmont or Penn Hills and use their building inspector in situations such as this. And also, I did meet with Marcia last week. So Mark is willing to be called in certain situations like this as well. He's still wrapping up several items and will be over the course of at least several weeks. So he has said to Marcia, and I'm sure he would to any of us, if we have a situation that we need help, he is still available, but just very much hoping to transition out.
Would he be willing to deal with the issue that was brought up yesterday?
I don't know if Madam President has an update on that. I
Oh,
think he may
yeah.
have.
I did talk to him about that, just to ask him whether they had applied for any kind of a permit. And he said, no, he was unaware of it. He wasn't clear. We had to find out the definition of an awning, and both Craig and he are looking into that. But in the
Very good.
meantime, pardon me?
I said, very good.
Yeah, in the meantime, though, he did say that there cannot be any poles that are blocking the sidewalk. And for people who are wondering, this has to do with some construction that appears to be taking place on the Center Avenue side of the Hula Bar. And so at this point, Mark knows about it. I think that we can ask them to stop right now, because they need some kind of permission or some kind of permit to do what they're doing.
Yeah, they are removing the post, Madam President, and submitting the application for the awning building permit.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, go ahead, Janet.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I just want to say, Saturday, Parks and Rec, they held the Easter egg event. It was fairly successful. We probably had about maybe 50, 75, children that came down, grab a tree bag. Then afterwards that evening, they did the drive-in movie. I'm not sure how, I didn't get the review on that, how that worked out, but I'm sure it was a perfect night for a drive-in movie. So I'm sure it was enjoyed by all who attended. So thank you to everybody who helped out with that event. Those that attended really did enjoy it. And those at work did enjoy it as well. So thank you. On the 23rd, Kathy Frankel from the DCNR, that's the Department of Conservation and National Resources, did a inspection down at Riverbank Park back in 1981. There was a grant that helped fund that park of $21,595. So part of that grant is there is a inspection that occurs every 5 years to see what upgrades or what's going on with the park. And there were two findings, and one is there needs to be a sign posted down at the park that lets everyone know that about the grant that funded that park. And we're in the process of getting a sign put back up. Mike, I might speak with you, work with AJ on obtaining a sign, maybe Roger, I'll work with you on that. Another finding was that the walkway is no longer ADA compatible. So for right now, we have to look into getting that. We do have a time period to have, these inspection things that need to be updated. We have like 90 days to get it going. And from there on, we need to be compliant with these regulations. But overall, it was a good inspection. Parks and Rec Board also did our annual walk through the different parks to see little things that do need to be fixed, upgraded, and we have a little listing, a little funding that we'll get with you, Mike, as well. What our public works guys can do to get compliant there as well. Also, back in May, June of 2019, did have an ordinance that would allow alcohol in our parks for special events. I do have a group that would like to have an event this summer. Currently, our parks application permit does not have anything for alcohol listed on there. And I am in the process of working with Craig on that as well. So we are looking to get a new park permit. But in the meantime, the group that would like to have the event, they're looking forward to us passing tonight, giving them permission to obtain a permit for alcohol so they could have their event. They would like to do something that would correspond with Inner Groove down at Riverbank Park. So I would like to make a motion that we can grant this group permission to book a date and with the permit to have alcohol for their event. I don't have a date yet. They are pending on, getting the approval for tonight. So I would like to make a motion to have this group have alcohol at their event.
Did you say this is the intergroup wanting to do this?
No, it's not the intergroup, it's another group. It's Travelers Aid. They're gonna have like a picnic type event and they're
What's it called?
with Travelers Aid.
Travelers Aid.
Yes.
What kind of group are they?
They're a nonprofit and they help with transportation or through different resources, different varieties of getting people transportation to nursing homes, senior centers, the doctors, things like that.
If someone would like to second, then we can have questions.
I'll second.
Oh, good, okay. I have a question. Well, actually more of an update. I guess I was wondering when it was, but you're saying they don't know yet.
Right. If they're waiting to get permission to have this event.
Okay, so just so you know, I happen to know that Intergroove is going to have their anniversary, whatever, June 5th. So probably wouldn't be, I mean, I guess it wouldn't matter. It's their own private event. I also talked to Craig about developing a permit for people to use, to fill out so that they can, as it states in the ordinance, that if you have this permit and you have all the other stuff lined up, that they can have this event. So he's working on that. And I just want to let you know that.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's kind of hard for me, I don't know about anybody else, to vote on a motion without a date. It seems a little open-ended. Wonder.
Well, she's looking for permission. If she doesn't get permission, then she'll go somewhere else. So they wanted to, they were waiting to see if before they booked the date, if they could have it. That was the idea.
And this is a railroad?
Down at Railroad Park, yes.
So they'd be renting the park also.
Correct.
Okay.
It looks like it's going to be on a Saturday, sometime this summer.
Okay, anybody else have any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Yes, Rhoda and Donald, I see your hand. Let's see. Well, if there's no other question. Yeah, all right, go ahead.
This question is for Janet. I feel that I'm very uncomfortable if we are starting to allow alcohol in these parks. I feel that the individuals that have this event, they need to get a special events insurance policy. We should not be responsible or even look into our insurance being, if anyone's covered. They should be responsible for acquiring this special events insurance.
That is one of the requirements to have a event in the parks is to have insurance.
Well, I'm saying when it's alcohol, yeah. You're opening a big liability, a possibility, which is very dangerous at this point, especially at this point with the borough. You can go to any insurance company. If they have an insurance on their house, they can look into it nationwide. Ask Kira Ewing, I don't know what insurance these people have, but they should receive or attain a special events insurance.
I thought that was talked about when this ordinance went through.
What's that?
About having the insurance.
Yeah, but I don't want you guys to pass a motion until you do your homework.
Yeah, I don't honestly remember if that is one of the requirements of the ordinance. I don't know, do you have that in front of you at all, Janet?
Private, yeah.
But I know that was discussed. I remember it being discussed, but I'm not sure what was the resolution to that.
I know it was signed, I know it was passed. I'm looking. I don't see anything about insurances at this time on this. I don't have anything on insurance on this ordinance. But I do know, from what our permit states, that they would have some type of, insurance on the permit.
Well, I think if we're gonna, you need them to have a copy of that, with their application. Liability insurance of some kind. And that would absolve Verona Borough.
Well, why don't you just table it until the next meeting until you find out for sure if that's in our ordinance or not? When the Chambers has the car cruise, we do have insurance. When we had the Fall Festival had insurance. Any event that the borough sponsored, they don't have, like community days, the borough's insurance usually covered that. So there
Yeah, but we're
are.
talking, yeah, because of alcohol, David, that's what I'm making an issue.
Oh, yeah, I do understand that. Yes, I do understand that.
I'd like to rescind my second on the motion.
Oh,
So we can go back and look into this. Till next.
Okay.
I actually had Trish as the second, but
Oh, I'm
that's
sorry.
okay.
Okay.
So we may need to table this, Janet, until for a couple weeks and do a little more research and find out more about, what we want our permit to say and what this group has in terms of a special events insurance policy.
That's fine. I'll let her know that we have not made that decision, that we're looking into it further and looking into the insurance part of it. As soon as we get a resolution, then, I'll let her know.
Well, can you ask them if they have special events insurance policy?
I will do that. I will do that. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Like, say within their group, if they're planning on an event too. So, okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Provenza, go ahead.
You're muted. You're muted, Sylvia. You're still muted, Sylvia. There
Better?
you go. There you
Okay.
go.
I did unmute it. I don't know why it didn't, but thank you again, Ray. On newsletter, by now you've all received your newsletter and I hope you've enjoyed reading it. It was certainly a little larger than we usually do, but had some very good articles in it, some great ads. The total that I collected for ads for this issue was $2,040. And this covered the expenses incurred, which was printing, setup, and postage. And I don't have a breakdown on it yet. I still haven't been able to get it, but hopefully next meeting I will have that. The articles for the next newsletter are due on Tuesday, June the 1st. And the sooner you get them in, the better, really, because then we can start working on them and again have an early newsletter in your mailbox. The articles can be sent to our editor, Donald Worf, at veronanewsroom@gmail.com, and I can be reached for ads at 412-828-7726. Next subject is Chamber of Commerce. I spoke with President Kevin Ewing of the Chamber, and he gave me the following report. They're working on military flags with our Mayor Dave. New flags have been purchased for on the boulevard. And also membership invoices were sent out, and we've been doing well with that. The money has been coming in for that. And also Chamber has the events on the website and also in our newsletter. So that'll keep you posted on what's going on there. Historical Society, all meetings are canceled until further notice. And you can also check veronahistory.org for any other information. Twin Borough Ministries. The community dinner will be held tomorrow at the Verona Methodist Church. It will be a grab and go dinner again, and the time is 4:30 to 6:30. And the dinners will be hosted by the Riverside Community Church. And we extend many thanks to Shirley and all her helpers. Wonderful thing that they do. Many people really look forward to this dinner. ALOM, the Banner Community Program, had another record-breaking year with a total of 75 communities and authorities receiving Banner Community status. And we, of course, were one of them. And I'm pleased to say that, and we as a community should be. And I did receive the certificate, and as soon as we can have a meeting in the Borough Building, I will be very pleased to present it. And that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Provenza.
You're welcome.
I want to let you guys know that Greg said that when you have a special public budget meeting like we're talking about, you only need 24-hour notice in the newspaper. So that does open things up a little bit as to when we might schedule. So anyway, Sylvia already gave her ALOM report. Dave, is there anything more to add from COG? Did you want to talk about anything else?
No, just what I already covered about the American Rescue Plan. So that's it.
Okay. At this time, council will hear comments on public related items. Please raise your virtual hand and clearly state your name and address, and keep your comments to 3 minutes as much as possible. Okay, it's Dawn or Rhoda Wharf. Go ahead. You guys are still muted. Dawn, Rhoda. Hello.
Got it? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go over about the assault. You do know that with Felino, I'm sure we're going to be paying something, number one. Number two, if they're talking about having the salt deposit underneath where Daly's is, that is a definite flood zone. So I don't understand. I think it's more positive to continue sharing services with Oakmont. I think if there's like, there were some snags, I think, and everything and anything can be worked out and ironed out. I think that would be an avenue that we should take to share services. Also, Ray, was that plug that was deficient or whatever, was that on the new truck?
No, Rhoda, it was on the old one, on the
Okay, 'cause I was gonna say,
2004.
we should have been under warranty. That's why I was referring
No,
to
no,
that.
no, it was on the 2004. And he said this is just something he's never really seen. He thinks it's because of the pressure on the hydrants in the area.
Oh, that's
And
very possible.
we're just lucky that the pump didn't blow up, because you
Oh,
would have been
really?
talking 30, 40, 50,000.
Okay.
So,
Also, in reference about the police contract, okay, I personally don't think that anyone on council, and this is not to sound critical, I don't think anyone on council is actually qualified to negotiate contractual terms for any one particular person's contract. I think a professional should be doing that. Through the past years, since we've had just a council person doing the negotiations for contracts, I mean, you have to have the knowledge when you're writing contracts for different positions, for example, the police. And I really think we should put that in the hands of a professional, not just, average or, council members.
I'm okay with that. I just wanted to bring it up that they're up.
No, I'm glad you did.
And we
I'm
want to
glad
get,
you did.
we
Yeah.
want to wait till the last minute.
Right, and it shouldn't be left to last minute. You're so correct, very correct. It should be done actually, the beginnings should be like a year prior. But thank you for listening, and hopefully you'll take heed to some of the suggestions that we made. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rhoda. Next up is Dan Showalter.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Dan Showalter, 440 North Avenue. There's going to be a lot of sacred cows that people have as you guys are going to be going through cutting parts of the budget, which obviously the borough needs to do. I would like to advocate, though, for figuring out some way to keep that $3,000 in the budget for the 150th. The 150th is the 150th. We have this year, and then that just disappears into history. So I know that it's going to be tough to figure out where the money is going to come from, but I really, 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 really would like to advocate for the idea of keeping that 3,000 in there for the 150th. So thank you, and have a good night.
Okay, thank you, Danny. I agree. I'd like to find some way to make sure that happens. Next up is Stephanie Garibay.
Yes, I would just also like to reiterate Danny's sentiments of keeping the 3,000 in the budget for the Verona Community Group's 150th celebration for this year. I would also like to make note that we need to hold somebody accountable for this tremendous oversight that has happened over the years. Questions that need to be asked and the community needs to be aware of are who hired our accountant, who was involved in the finance committee over the years that this happened, and how did this happen? And nobody, not one person, questioned or did anything about it. It was one thing a month ago or a few weeks ago at the last meeting where we were talking about, an $80,000 deficit, and now we're over 600,000, 300,000, whatever this large number is at this point. Somebody needs to be held accountable. I need you guys to hold somebody accountable. Landmark businesses needs to be held accountable. They did not get us out of the red. They did the opposite of that. What's your answer to that? I don't need to thank you, Stephanie, for your comments. We need answers. We need to know who's going to be held accountable, because for us, if it means raising our taxes, why should we have to pay for your mistakes? This is inexcusable. Thank you.
Okay, Stephanie, we heard you, and I don't have answers for you right this minute, but anyway, thanks for sharing. Kathy Maddox is up next.
Yeah, hi, this is actually Luke.
Oh, Luke, okay.
234 Penn Street. Kathy and I took a walk this afternoon, and down at the dock that Verona owns, not the rowing club dock, but the one that Verona owns, there is a garbage can and it's overflowing. And I thought that Jerry had ordered a regular garbage can, and that was going to be something that the borough would take care of and pick up. I don't know how often, but as a regular thing. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or from the public before we go to exec session? Rhea, go ahead.
All right, hi there. I'm not really sure if this is the appropriate time to do it or not, but I'm gonna just take a chance and maybe it is. I wanted to just add some information regarding communications. Sylvia had talked about the newsletter, and she, goes through the next meetings of things. I just wanted to point out that there was a misprint in the newsletter, and I wanted to share the information here since it did not was not included in the newsletter, that the next meeting for the Verona Community Garden is Thursday, May 13th, 2021 at 6 p.m. And then also the next Sea Green meeting is Thursday, 27th at 6 p.m. What was that? May 27th, did I not say that? Oh, May 27th, I apologize. That's everything, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rhea, for updating us. That's the 13th and the 27th. Okay. Laura Jacko's up next.
Hi there, Laura Jacko, 437 North Avenue. Just, I guess this is a little bit like what Stephanie said, but I actually don't really know a whole lot about accounting or accountants or hiring them personally. But have we explored any sort of liabilities for people that may have gotten our borough into this mess in the first place? And if not, is that something that can be explored? I don't really know where liability falls if you hire an accountant who, does their job very, very poorly and leaves an entire borough hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. I don't know if that's how that works, honestly, but I would think it'd be something we would want to look into. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, there's a lot of unanswered things at this moment. And I don't know how to answer the questions that you guys are posing at this moment. Maybe when we have the special budget meeting, we can talk more about that kind of thing. So technically, Jerry is still in our employ until tomorrow, and we still need to get some things from him, information from him, and our finance statements for March. So I think we're going to wait for that and then move forward from there. Any other comments from anybody? Okay, well, then I'll take a motion to adjourn to exec session with the possibility of coming back.
I'll make the motion, Nancy.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Provenza, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Forbeck. Okay, so everybody on council, you have a separate exec session link to go to. I personally am just going to mute and start my video and then go to that other link